So I'm gonna replace this toilet. It's a pain in the butt, I hate it. So I don't want any more. First thing I did though is I turned off the water valve all the way to the right, and then I flushed the toilet as much as I could. Unfortunately, that's what I'm left with. If you want less water or you want less chance of it, dumping out on the ground or something, then you can use the shop vac and suck it out. But that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take that water line off. Depending upon what size line you have is depending upon what size wrench we need, but I'll tell you which size I have. But once I take that line off, I'm gonna pop off those caps on each side. There's a stud with a nut, and then I'm just gonna simply pull it up. But like I said, if you wanna get cleaner with it, you can suck out the water out of there, make sure all the water's out of there. You could even take the tank off the top. It should be a stud with a nut on that side, a stud with a nut on that side. But yeah. So we're gonna take the sucker off. Like I said, the water is off. The water is off. Make sure you turn the water off. You'll find out real quick if you don't. But I got a little bit of, little paper towels and a small bowl, just in case it has a lot of residual water. All right, so we're gonna get it to where we can do it by hand. Once it is loose. Once it's loose. There we go. Oh, okay, so, just kidding. There's a little bit of water. Let this sit there for a second, and I'm gonna pop up these caps. So, if you have any issues with taking this nut off, you could do a couple of things. You could get a flathead screwdriver and put it underneath it while still turning. Sometimes that helps. But yeah, I haven't had to cut one off, but this is like toilet number 10 or 11. I haven't had to cut one off, but I've been able to get them off. You try pulling up while turning, but sometimes they're really corroded, especially if they're super old. I'm gonna take the other one off and then go from there. All right, so I've gotten the nuts off on each side. I have water in here. Yeah, but I'm just gonna lift it straight up, and I'm gonna stick it inside this box, the box from the new toilet. That way, if any water comes out, it's gonna go in there. But like I said, you could also empty it out or suck it out. But that's just what I'm gonna do. All right, so now that I got the toilet up, I'm gonna take these studs out. But first, I'm gonna scrape this old wax off. Yeah, that way it has a good seal when I put the new wax ring on there. But I'm just gonna use this guy right here and then clean the crap out of it on the back side. All right. All right, so I've got most of it off. You don't have to get crazy with it, but just, get as much as you can off. You don't have to like scrub it or anything. But gonna put the other hardware in. Want to make sure that this thing isn't cracked. If it is cracked, there's a couple of different options you can do. There's a couple of adapters you can put on there. Here's the toilet that I'm using. I bought about, 8 of these. I got this one specifically at Home Depot. It's like $89. So if you guys out there have the means to replace this toilet, right, you should just go ahead and do it instead of hiring a plumber to fix something crazy. Like, don't put more than 20 bucks into an old toilet. That'd be stupid. Just buy a brand new toilet, put it up, just go to town, all right? But we're gonna take all this stuff out. That's complex. This is all your parts. That's for the, I'll show you that in a minute. But there's all your parts to the side. You got your water tank, that side. And 90% of the stuff is already assembled. Then you got the top right here to the water tank. Then you got your toilet seat, set that aside. Then you got your main toilet. I'm gonna pull everything out. I'll start assembling it. All right, so a couple things before I get too deep, now that I got a nice clean toilet facing upside down. But you got your back side over here, your front side over here. But if you needed to shim this thing, just kind of pay attention to the way this thing's designed, right? you don't have a lot of space. So if you push that shim in too far, it's not going to be touching anything. You got a little bit different stuff back here that you could kind of have a shim underneath or whatever. But another thing too, this wax ring, very important for one, but is going to sit on there like that. I've seen people use multiple wax rings. I personally don't think it's necessary, but I guess if you've got a big gap between here and where the actual drain for the toilet goes, maybe necessary. But if you just got a normal setup, no crazy thickness for flooring, just use one wax ring. But whatever, if you want to use two wax rings, it's cool. You just need to make sure, for one, make sure that when you stick these on top of each other, I probably get the same design, right? That you're not squishing it to where the wax is getting in the way of where all your gunk is going down in the drain, right? It's kind of important. All right, so I've got the toilet out. I've got the tank out as well. You've got a ring that needs to go on this guy. Make sure you stick it on there right. It does not go like this, it goes like this. But go ahead and take this hardware off. And also too, for me personally, I mean, I don't go get crazy with it. I'm not saying it's necessary, but I put a little bit of petroleum jelly on this guy, just kind of moisten it up and help with a good seal. So I've got a little bit of stuff on there. I put it on there, took the hardware off of here. Those studs are gonna go in here and here, right? And then also too, while you're at it, screw it. Just go ahead and take this guy off. That doesn't need to be on there. And if you wanted to, you go ahead and put your line on. If you're watching this video and you haven't bought anything yet, I would take your old one and just take that to the store and make sure you get the right size. But also too, make sure that it's the right height, because the new toilet could be taller. So just make sure you buy one that's the right height. Mine's gonna be too long, but whatever, I'm gonna tuck it behind the toilet. But I'm gonna go ahead and stick this thing on, just so I don't have to fold it later. Then also note, there's already a rubber fitting in here. It wouldn't go on because there was a rubber fitting inside of it already. So take the one out of the toilet and screw it on. I've got it screwed on. Just make sure you don't get too crazy with it. Hand tight, pretty good snug, but just hand tight. Don't use any tools to tighten this one up. So before you even get to this point, I would maybe suggest just to make sure that when you flush the toilet, your little guy actually pulls up and everything's hooked up and there's no issues. Like this needs to come up when you pull this guy. But now we're going to put our hardware on the bottom of those studs. And we're just going to tighten it down slowly. You want to make sure that it's even. Obviously, you don't want your stuff to be like sideways and stuff, but just tighten it down a little bit at a time on each side with your hand. Don't use tools. Just tighten it down with your hand and make sure it's snug. I do this before I put the toilet down just because I think it's easier, but you could put the toilet down by itself and then do this later. It's up to you. But yeah, just tighten it up with those guys, one on each side. And you can see how it's pretty much made it up against right here. If I can see my finger, right here and here, and then this lip right here, and then the actual tank itself. All right, so this is your hardware that the toilet's gonna mount to the floor with. All right, so you're gonna take these guys off, and then we'll turn it this way, push it down, and then turn it sideways and bring it back in to where it's over here. But you want to make sure that these are straight as possible, kind of like at a 90 degree angle versus this right here. And if you're doing, it's definitely possible to do this by yourself, but if you're doing this by yourself, you just want to make sure you stick this wax ring in here with the plastic piece down. And when you're putting the toilet down, you just want to make sure that you're very slow and careful to put it down straight, and you can see the studs coming through the holes on the right and left side of the toilet, because you don't want to smash the wax ring at all in an abnormal way, right? You want to smash it with it in the position it needs to be. If you smash it, especially if it's bad, you're just going to have to get a new one. They're not expensive, but it's just going to be time consuming. But if you smash it in a bad way, it's not going to seal, and that's going to be really gross. It's going to leak. and you may not even know it's leaking. Hopefully in this scenario you would know it's leaking, but a lot of times this is kind of inset into the floor, so it just leak straight onto the subfloor and you may not even know it. That's bad. But just take your time with it. All right, so I got the wax ring in, pretty close to 9 degrees. Maybe bring this. Just like I said, so I got the wax ring with the plastic piece down. If you have the option, like if, for whatever reason you need to buy one, normally they come with one, but if you ever need to buy one with that plastic piece. I really like it. It's just, I don't know, it makes more sense. Gives more chance for success as well. But we're just gonna set the toilet straight down, right? We're gonna take our time. I'm not gonna be able to video this, unfortunately, but I'm just gonna hug the toilet, grabbing both sides of like the inner side of the bowl next to the water tank, and just drop it straight down while I'm watching and seeing the studs pop out. All right, so I was grabbing it with both hands, looking like this, right? And I was just watching to see that stud pop out, or you know, see the stud coming into each side of this, and I plopped it straight down. And then you want to look and make sure that, you know, it's the toilet's not like cockeyed left or right. But also too, use a level. Set the level straight down right here, and set it down right here, and make sure it's not leaning left or right or front and back. I mean, you don't have to be perfect, but you want it pretty close to perfect. If it's not, you just put shims, right? If this front needs to come up, you just put a shim underneath there, and then score with a razor blade and then pop it off. Just make sure that you push down on the toilet when you're pulling up on that shim to break it. That way you don't pull it away from the seal. And if you need to adjust it left or right, turn it left or, you know, clockwise, counterclockwise, just kind of try to not pick it up and turn it, right? Just kind of turn it just a little bit to get it where you need it. I'm gonna put these little plastic pieces down first, right? And then I'm gonna put my my nut and wing nut on there. Here's my nut and my wing nut. And you're not wanting to tighten it down too crazy, right? Because you could break that plastic flange that stud is inside of. The point is just to kind of help secure it. Like, it's not going to cinch it down to the ground. If you want it to be more secure, especially if you're having issues with leveling it and you have a crap ton of shims, put some caulking on it, right? Once it's level, the shims are good, put some caulking, a bead of caulking all the way around this guy, and then let it dry for like 12 to 24 hours before you sit down on it. Do not sit down on it until that caulking is dry. And that will help kind of secure to the ground. I don't like using caulking, especially in this scenario, because if it did start to leak, hopefully it's going to leak kind of outside underneath, and I'm going to be able to identify that. If you have caulking, it's going to leak and just go straight down, right? It'll leak into this ground, or yeah, I don't like use caulking. But if you got any issues with it being sturdy, or you want it to be more sturdy, then caulk the bottom side of it. But I'm gonna put the hardware on each side, get a hand tight, right? And then I'm gonna put that line right there on there. All right, now that we got our hardware on there, oh, I need to put that other cap on there. And I've got the line connected, and the line was already connected from the bottom side, hand tight. We're going to turn the water on, right? And if you ever have one of these that leak and it's not like a crazy leak, try to tighten it, loosen it, tighten it, loosen it, tighten it, loosen it. It's just more than likely, unless it's bad, it's just from it not moving a lot, not actually a lot. Mine's got a small leak, but I'm gonna make sure that it stops here in a minute. But before, you know, if you did want to put caulking down there and all this other stuff, I would just go ahead and turn the water on once you've got it mounted. Make sure it fills up, make sure it doesn't leak right there, in between the tank and the toilet, obviously in between the floor and the toilet. And once it fills up, then I'll make sure it flushes. All right, now that it's filled up, I want to flush it. Everything seems to be good. Now I'm going to put the toilet seat on. Now we're going to put the toilet seat on. So you got this with a little nut. Just gonna pop this cap up and then shove it down there, and then put the nut on the other side, and you know, get it snug, and then adjust it however you want to, because you can see how it moves, and then tighten it all the way down once you get it to where you want it. All right, there you have it. If you have any questions, just put them in the comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll let you know what's up. I'll give you another video, or just answer your question. Just let me know. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.